Orientation is off. The orientation's locked. The orientation's locked. No. So just do it this way. How'd you? We can. I'm gonna do it this way because the orientation is locked. Can we fit it this way? Okay. Can you hear it nice and loud now? My legs to show. I don't want my legs to show when I'm sitting, so if you want to adjust it.
I'll adjust it, inshallah. Ready? أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. رحم الله من أعادها ثانية. على حب محمد وآل محمد ثالثا بأعلى أصواتكم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجك. Thanks for your patience, dear brothers and sisters. You go, son.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. والصلاة والسلام على خير خلق ونور أفضل الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيبنا وسيدنا وسلامنا وشفيعنا ومولانا أبو القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين. أما بعد، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي هلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين
سيدتي ومولاتي أم المصائب الحوراء زينب ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Respected elders, brothers and sisters in Islam, I would like to greet you all with the warmest of Islamic greetings, and that is none other than Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I begin in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, for without His mercy and kindness, opportunities such as this would not be presented to us. Tonight we gather at a time where the world is in complete turmoil, in the remembrance of an event that occurred 1400 years ago. Today we stand with our heads held high, that on that day, when our beloved Imam Hussein والسلام, was left abandoned, and he called out to the people, is there anyone to help us? Is there any rescuer to rescue us? We heard that call. We did not forsake that call. Even when the media was hijacked and the followers of the Ahlul Bayt were made out to be terrorists, to be extremists, even when they told the other Muslims to begin to call us kuffar and takfir us, even when they said that our nations are filled with Muslims that engage in the worst acts in Islam known as shirk, associating partners to Allah, we still stood strong. We did not lose our ground. And today we can honestly look up and say, even though the media was hijacked and other Muslim countries were turned against us for our beliefs, and the social media platforms began to filter anything in our favor, and the scholarships that were against our schools became more rampant in aggressively takfiring us, we stood firm until the veil was lifted and the world saw who the terrorists are. The world saw innocent children dying in 2023 and 2024. Can we get these kids out of the way, brothers and sisters, please? Sallallahu Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. They say salawat and bring thank you from the heart. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And one more in honor of our parents that have raised us with the love of Ahlul Bayt in our hearts, whether they are alive or not alive with us. One more salawat with the loudest of your voices. On the subject of parents, while we gather ourselves a bit, I just wanted to sincerely thank this community from the bottom of my heart. As you know, I was supposed to be here last year. And within a month of me coming, I received some unfortunate news about the health of my mother. She required an open heart surgery after experiencing a lot of chest pain, and she was only in her 60s. And it was a very difficult time in my life, and I had to, for the first time ever, cancel Muharram. Allah knows that I have put so much away. I have failed tests. I have forgotten assignments just to make these 10 nights work since I was at the age of 19. And this was the only time where I had to say, Allah only gives me one mother, and I had to be there for her. So thank you and your community for your patience with me during this time. And thank you for the du'as that you all recited during the 10 nights. For she did have her surgery on the night of Ashura last year, and she has made a full recovery. Alhamdulillah. A lot of times people ask me, is your father a sheikh? Is your father a scholar? How is it that you, at a young age, accepted this path of doing these sermons for Ahlul Bayt? And I'm nobody to talk about myself. I am nobody to say that anything I do is with high merit or anything of the sort. What they don't know is that as much as my father played an integral role in my education and support and discipline, the best decision my father could have made in his lifetime was to marry my mother. Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salatu wasalam says the first right that your child has over you is that the father picks the right mother for this child. And I can say that if you think that my father is a sheikh because of the caliber of my speech or the amount of knowledge that you may seem that I may seem to have, I can say without a doubt that it was my mother that taught me. And to this day, I still call my mother and discuss hadith with her and ayahs of the Quran with her. And she will sit there and research with me on Google for hours as we debate points, as we come to new understandings together. So thank you all for praying for my mother. Thank you all for being patient with me. And I promise in these 10 nights, I will without a doubt make it out to your beautiful community. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
In any case, today we stand at a precipice where a veil has been uplifted, and the once seemingly dominant media that painted one side of the story began to dwindle. We started seeing more videos come out of the atrocities that happen across the world. We started seeing the heinous crimes that never left us from the time of the Mother Hussein, where even a 6-month-old baby mercy was not shown, where food and water that was deprived to our beloved 30 Imam and his family was also taken away from the children of Gaza. We sit at this precipice now where people are wondering, who are these supporters? Who are these people that lament the death of these children, that do not give up no matter how much you call them kuffar and mushrikeen and munafiqeen and terrorist support? Who are these people that stood firm that in 2014 when ISIS took over Iraq, they showed up to Ziyarat al-Arba'in, 27 million in numbers? Who are these people that do not fear death? Who are these people that do not sell their soul for the lavishness and the delusion of this world? And tonight in these 10 nights, what we hope to accomplish is to tell the world who we are, what we stand for, and why is it that for 1400 years we remain steadfast and do not bow to whatever pressures that are around us. In the Holy Quran, Surah Al-Hajj, we have a little bit of a mystery to solve tonight together. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Hajj talks about the nations that came before us. And in it, he says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and if they deny you, O Muhammad, so before them did the people of Noah, Ad, and Thamud deny their prophets. And the people of Abraham, and the people of Lut, and the inhabitants of Midian, and Moses was also denied. So I prolonged the enjoyment of disbelievers. Then I seized them, and how terrible is their punishment. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and how many cities did we destroy while it was committing wrongdoings and fallen into ruin? And then the ayah ends with something unusual. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the same ayah says, and there is an abandoned well you get water from, and a lofty palace or a highly risen castle. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we'll just leave it there for you. So for today, these ayahs that I recited require us to use the Quran as a bit of a map to really understand why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the people that denied the prophets, the people that were destroyed because of committing evil deeds, and also try to get or understand why the Quran sometimes makes mention of random objects or structures. Right now, at a surface level, when I see an abandoned well and a highly risen castle, my mind, my aql by itself, cannot discern what Allah is referring to. It requires surely the ones that have been gifted with the guidance of Allah to interpret these messages within the Quran and give me a more solid understanding as to what I'm reading. So along those verses that I read says, go look at the old civilizations. Go look at the previous prophets. Go see what happened to those people. From this, I can derive that the Quran is giving me directions to a map to understand what it's saying. So now, tonight, we will pick one of the cities that the Quran mentions that the people refused to stop committing evil acts. And as a result, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rained his punishments upon them, and they were fully annihilated. This story starts with the story of Prophet Lut, alayhi salam. As you know, Prophet Lut was directly related to Prophet Ibrahim from his mother's side, and he was also the brother-in-law of Prophet Ibrahim, alayhi salam. So he was Sarah's brother, his wife's brother. Prophet Lut is sent to a people that were known for committing certain evil actions. Now, a lot of times when people read this story, they immediately conflate it with same-gender relationships. They're like, oh, look, we all know what happened there, that's that. But the story of Prophet Lut alayhi salam has a lot more depth to it when you read the commentary and the earlier sources. As you know, the story of Prophet Lut is not exclusive to the Quran. It's also mentioned in the biblical texts and the Judaic texts. So when we read the story, we have to understand why was Prophet Lut sent to these people, and why does the Quran make mention of this? A lot of times when the Quran makes stories, it's not for us to sit there and look at all these facts that the Quran is saying. The Quran is trying to tell us, what Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is revealing these ayahs for us to take lesson in, so that we do not fall under the same nations that rejected God and committed great acts of evil. So let us now go to the tafasir of the holy imams to see what was the situation before Prophet Lut even came to these people. The people of Sodom and Gomorrah lived in a very luscious, crop-filled land. They were known to be very generous people. They were kind. And when people would pass by, they would go to the trees and they would grab some crops, and the people of Sodom and Gomorrah would allow them to do that. So they were known, and people would tell people, you know what, there's a land, Sodom and Gomorrah. They're very nice people. They're a very nice tribe of people. If you ever need anything and you're a traveler in that destination, stop by. What happens is that they go through a time of hardship. Now, none of this is mentioned in the Quran yet. This is all in the tafasir. So, for example, if you read the book by Memphis, you'll find the biographies of all the prophets and the events pertaining to the prophets in the Quran. So if you look at Hayat al-Qulub, you see that before Prophet Lut was sent, these people were nice people. A community that was rich with crops and goodness and kindness suddenly becomes the community that gets annihilated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what happens is, in one tradition we have that they experience a drought. And then they began to think, well, why don't we have anything left over? So they become miserly. They become angry. We were generous people. What kind of punishment is this? We gave so much, and this is how God returns the favor. Now we're all poor. We have nothing to our name. And another version is that they gave so much away, there was no drought, but they gave so much away, they ended up thinking, you know what? We got the shorter end of the stick on this one. We don't have anything for ourselves. This is a contrast to what happens in each and every one of our lives today. You do something good, and then something bad happens. Why did that happen? But I was so nice to this person. How could they betray me? But what about all these good deeds that I did? And whenever you begin to resent the good that you do in the world, when you let misery kick in, when you start hating the good that you do you know what you do, brothers and sisters? MashaAllah, you send a handwritten invitation to Shaitan. The narrations say that an old wise man appeared to the people of Sodom. This man seemed to be like a sage-like character. However, it was Shaitan manifesting himself in the form of a human. Have we other narrations where shaitan can shapeshift and turn into a human? Yes, we do. There are many instances where Prophet Isa is walking and he can speak to shaitan. There's another instance that when they usurped the right of Imam Ali, the first to give bay'ah was an old man with a mark of prostration on his forehead. So then, this old wise man comes to Prophet Lut's, or not yet, Sodom, and he says, do you know why you have nothing? The people become astonished. Wow, a man has answers for us. Do you know why you have nothing? Because you're so nice. And that's the punishment with being nice. He basically gives a sermon where he says, nice guys finish last. So from now on, here's how you fix it. You have to fix it, you're poor. When you see a traveler come by, loot from them. Steal their belongings. Act like if anybody who comes across your land, you are entitled to their belongings. Then the people said, but what if the person comes back for his belongings with a bigger tribe or a mob? We robbed this person. Shaitan, the old man, says, that's a good question. Let me teach you what you have to do. Let me tutor you on what you need to do to fix this problem. He says, when you steal from them, make sure you violate them. A person that gets violated experience such a level of shame they'll never return. And please understand the language I use. In one other tradition that is also found in the respected brothers of Ahl Sunnah, like in Durr al-Manthur by Suyuti, and you can find this in our books as well, is that after this old man leaves, he takes the appearance of a young man who's handsome, full of money, and he wants to now test out to see if the advice he gave kicked in. And so as he was going through, the people started thinking, you know what, he looks well off, he's a handsome gentleman, and they take advantage of him. This is where the initial act now became a ritual for the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. It was under the advisement of Shaitan that he took people who had good intentions, repurposed their intentions, and turned them into the damning tribe of Lut, the tribe of Lut. So at this point, the Quranic story now starts here, where Prophet Lut alayhi salam is picking up from this point. That they have become a ritual of people that steal, violate, and because they began to violate, they began to have desires in that direction. And because they had desires in that direction, Prophet Lut alayhi salam is telling them, what have you done? Why have you gone out of the realm of normalcy? Why have you abandoned the teachings? And why are you committing actions that no one before you have done? Today I look at the world and see where it's being promoted the most. You see how it went from being mental illness to love. You see the direction things are going. You think, yeah, Lut was a long time ago. No. Shaitan comes back. You think it was just the people? No, he will come and create different ways for you to engage in the same type of actions. From what started as a noble deed of generosity and kindness ends up with you doing the most depraved act, committing acts that cause psychological harm and depravity and issues and shame permanently in people's lives. And they're justified because we have to do what's right for our people. Our people are better than your people. Sound familiar, right? Our people, you serve our people. We need to do, we have to steal from you. We have to take from you. We have to violate you. We have to shame you. Okay. So Prophet Lut alayhi salam now goes in the Quran story, starts here. He starts by admonishing them. He even marries from them. To demonstrate what a healthy family is like, Prophet Lut alayhi salam marries from them. Hayatul Qulub, he says that he lived amongst them for 30 years. He had 2 children, 2 daughters from that same woman. And he tried, and he tried, and they would taunt him. They would say, yeah, well, you've been here for 30 years. If your God is going to rain this punishment, we're waiting. Bring it on. We're not going to change our ways. until the story takes a turn. And it is said that 4 angels descend upon the earth and take the form of a human being. These angels in the hadith are mentioned to be Jibreel, his brother Mikael, Israfil, and another angel that many people don't know, known as Karubil. These are the 4 angels. And at first, they go to the senior prophet. They go to Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, and they tell him, can we be your guests? Prophet Ibrahim looks at them and says, absolutely, you can be my guest. He doesn't realize he's speaking to angels. So they go and prepare a calf for them, and they offer the angels food, and then the angels say, the Quran says, they put their hand in the way, and they did not accept the food. Prophet Ibrahim looks at them and says, why don't you eat? He said, we are indeed messengers from your Lord who have come to relay the news for you. He said, what is the news? The angels say, we have come to fulfill the punishment of the of Lut, the tribe of Lut that he's been sent to. Prophet Ibrahim, very generous and kind according to the Quran, he says, can you please rethink this matter? Can you give him more time with these people? And the angels rebuke and they say, this is the amr of your creator. This is the decree of your Lord, that time is out. In the tafsir of this verse, Imam As-Sadiq sallallahu alayhi he says that Prophet Ibrahim actually began a negotiation with these angels. He said, if there was 100 of the tribe of Lut that believed, would they have been spared? He said, yes. They would have been spared. He said, if there was 50, would they have been spared? The angel said, yes. Prophet Ibrahim thought to himself. He said, if there was one person in the tribe of Lut in Sodom that believed, would they have been spared? And the angel said, yes. They would have been spared if there was just one. 30 years the prophet tried to admonish them. Not one of them was ready to let go of their tradition, their tribalism, their acts of sin. None of them are ready to let it go. So Prophet Ibrahim finally says, I will stop pleading to you. You know best. So now the angels, the 4 angels that visited Prophet Ibrahim, go and visit Prophet Lut alayhi salam. And in the narrations it says that Prophet Lut was irrigating his lawn. He was just watering his plants, and he sees these interesting, handsome looking folks coming towards him. Now immediately he realizes that they're foreigners. And he knows the customs of this tribe. When they see foreigners, what do? Steal, violate, hurt. So he says, I need you to come with me. You guys can't be here. So he takes them inside the house. Prophet Lut's wife, who was from them, recognizes they're foreigners. She thinks to herself, if I expose these angels, I'll probably get brownie points for the community. This is why in Surah Al-Tahrim, Allah says, and Prophet Nuh and Lut had also corrupt wives. So she starts a fire on the house. She starts a fire so the smoke rises, and she begins to call the Sodom tribe, the tribe of Sodom, come, there's foreigners in this house. And they're not like any other foreigners. These ones are special. Wow. We talk about when negotiations go wrong. You know, you've got one prophet on the side trying to make a case for you. On the other side, you've got a tribe of people ready to violate angels. You want to violate a human is one thing. Talk about when negotiations go wrong. So now the people are coming to the door. They're coming to the door of Prophet Lut. And Prophet Lut is speaking to the angels, and they say, Ya Lut, we are messengers from your Lord. Lut looks, and he's struggling. He doesn't know what to do. The people begin to smash the door. The hinges become loose. And in this moment, it is said that the angels say, oh, Lut, if only you knew the power you wield in this moment. Say to us what you wish. And Lut says, I wish for my family to be saved. And so the narrations say that the angels came out. each angel took a quadrant, like on the south northwest, broke through the earth, picked up the city, turned it over, it says, the Quran says, and the top became the bottom, and smashed through the city. And so ends the tribe of Sodom and Gomorrah, ended in cold blood, over temptations they couldn't solve, over issues and the rejection of guidance. One thing interesting happens here behind the door, however. Before Prophet Lut gives the order to have his family saved, an interesting phenomenon happens that has a lot of people questioning the Prophet himself. In the Quran, it's mentioned that Prophet Lut alayhi salam says to the people, he says to his daughters, go forth. He had 2 daughters, he says, go forth. And he says to the people, take my daughters instead of the foreigners, for they are purer for you. A lot of people would say, what kind of a father does this? Give up his daughters to be violated by a group of people like this, in these circumstances? And so many people don't understand that the Prophet Lut understood the ramifications of the actions of these people, and he was trying to avoid utter destruction. He was trying to distract them so the angels do not get violated. And you know what happens when the daughters go and the people reject it? The people say, we want the foreigners, not your daughters. And in the Quran, what does it say? And we made them go blind. When the angels saw that the people wouldn't listen, this happened before the destruction. When the angels saw the people behind the door wouldn't listen, and they saw the fear in Prophet Lut's face, the first order of punishment was, pass them to Ayyumal, that we erased their eyes. In some traditions, it almost like the sockets even disappeared from their faces. This was the first order of humiliation to the people that would not listen. And they began to claw and grope and grab, not knowing what happened to them. Imagine they had a mission in mind, and all of a sudden their eyesight was taken away, and they began to cling and claw and throw themselves one side to another, worrying, devastated, where has my eyesight gone? So, for the sake of his people, Prophet Lut sent his daughter. They rejected it. When the angels saw they didn't listen, they blinded the people behind the door. I too know of a prophet who sent his daughter between the door. I too know of a door that Jibreel used to visit, that Hassan and Hussein used to visit, that the Holy Prophet used to go and visit and knock and ask for his daughter. I too know of that door. Except, brothers and sisters, this time when the Prophet's daughter went to the door and they began to attack and break the door, instead of the people's eyes going blind, something else happened to the Muslim Ummah. When they went behind the door and said to Fatima sallallahu alayha, went and introduced herself, do you not know who I am? They said, so what? They said, what do you want from us? They said, we want your husband Ali. If he doesn't come out, I don't care who you are, I will burn this door upon you. Recorded in history. This is what happens in this ayah where it says, and the wells were abandoned and the castles remained high. For those who disbelieve in you, O Muhammad, tell them of the nations that came before them, and tell them how many cities we ruined, and they abandoned the well and left the castle high. Yet not a Rasulullah, ya Imam Sadiq. What does this mean? Imam Baqir, what does this mean? You'll find in Manaqib, the tafsir of this ayah comes out in the form of ta'weed, the hidden meaning of this verse. Why did Allah make the well and the castle an example in this ayah? They say the well was Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
And the high castle was Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
When the city was ruined, they abandoned the well and left the castle up high. Today, you look around, the name of Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is on every Muslim's tongue. There's no dispute that the Prophet of Islam, even in the hearts of the disbelievers, even in the hearts of the different sects of Islam, everything circumambulates the name Muhammad. The ayah is saying, you see how everyone can see the high castle, but the well was abandoned. Where's the well? The well is on the ground, hidden from eyes. You can live in the shelter of a castle and be protected, but if you don't have access to the water supply, you'll die of thirst. You can pose and show off with your castle, but if you cannot survive, what good is it that you're a janazah, that you're a dead body inside the castle? This ayah was saying, on this day, when they came to the house of Fatima al-Zahra sallallahu alayha, what happened? She said, I am Sayyidah Fatima, do you not know who I am? They said, so what? And so they abandoned the well, the door to Rasulullah, the source of Rasulullah's knowledge. They went elsewhere, and instead they left the castle up high by itself. And that's why in the verse right after that castle, what does it say? So have they not traveled through the earth by which the reason and ears we wish to hear? For indeed, it is not eyes that are blinded, but blinded are the hearts which are within their chests. So on this day, brothers and sisters, I'm going to conclude with this. On this day that they came to the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, and they attacked the door, and they said, we don't care who you are. And you know, Sayyidah Fatima was carrying a baby as well. And they opened and they wrecked the door on top of her. The angels came down. This time, instead of making their eyes go blind, their hearts went blind, as it says in the ayah of the Quran. Instead of making their eyes go blind, we made their hearts go blind. So 1400 years later, the Muslim Ummah sits there watching children get killed. And says, I don't know. Look at leadership. What did you think was going to happen? When Sayyidah Fatima would walk in the streets of Medina, they say, Ya Fatima, kayfa asbah? How do you make your days into mornings or nights into mornings? She said to them, O people, how quickly you let the grudge of Badr and Uhud out on my husband Ali. They said, but Fatima, what's the issue? People are still praying. They still go to the Prophet's mosque. They still attend Jummah. Yes, you're right. They do. But the kids are getting blown up in Gaza and the Muslim world goes, I don't know. Right? The children are getting blown up or dying of starvation. You know, my grandfather, may Allah rest his soul, he used to say to my mother, he said, you know, sometimes I don't feel sorry for these Arabs. My mom said, why? He says, you know, if they each grabbed a cup of water and just dumped it, the enemies would drown. Never have we remained more disunited. And I was watching and monitoring as the recent events unfolded in the past few weeks, only to find that even as we stood for justice as a collective, even as we all stood there saying, finally, a response has been made. There were leaders on Twitter saying, don't support the Shia. Don't support the Hafida. They are worse than the ones that killed the children in Gaza. Subhanallah. You want to tell me your hearts didn't go blind, huh? When Allah says to a nation, follow the Prophet, follow his message, follow his successor. Do not go astray from this. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold firm on the rope of Allah and do not disunite. The Muslims disunited, and now they remain scattered, fragmented. And even though the Shia leaders today constantly tell everyone, oh, Muslims unite, do not abandon the Quran. Surely we are not disbelievers, we have differences of opinions. They still go back on Twitter and say, look at the aqidah of the Shia. Look at the Shia, they are mushrikeen. Don't support the Shia because, look what they say. They killed our brothers in Syria. The brothers in ISIS, yeah, they're Shias. They're worse. Out of fear that their leaders forsook them, forsook their prophet, normalized relations with the tyrants of the world, and now they're afraid. That's why they keep barking. That when the Shia stood up, they're afraid that the youth are going to become enamored. That they're going to be like, who is Hussein? Who is Ali? What is these people not bend the knee to tyranny? 45 years of sanctions. Deprived. Yet they united the minute they were attacked. The world heard that big Yao saying in the last few weeks. And what a Muharram it will be this year. That for the first time the veil has been uncovered, the politics have been set aside, and the statement was made. That 1400 years ago, our Imam called out. We were not there, but we are here today. And just like the throat of Al-Asr that sprayed our blood, and just like the tears that we shed every year and the chests that we beat, you know the same chests that they make fun of? Look at the Shias beating their chests. We stand firm. We didn't move. The cry of Ali al-Asqar and the tyranny of Yazid did not leave us. With that being said, brothers and sisters, may Allah bless you for coming tonight. Thank you for listening to tonight's lecture. Inshallah, we'll have less technical difficulties and be more on time next time. And as the topics will go, we will dive into deeper territories. This was just an introductory night. We'll dive into deeper territories to see where the seed of all this evil has been sown in the world and how we can overcome it. My last wish for you tonight before I finish tonight's lecture and we can go for Salat is when you see people purposely causing mischief in the land, whether they are Shia, whether they are not Shia, try to tell them now is not the time. Sometimes we are our own enemies. When you see the Shias cursing incessantly, bringing up the name of a prophet's wife incessantly for no reason, tell them, please, brother, time and place. This is why the hadith says, it is the ahmaq, it is the foolish one of the Shias that break Imam Mehdi's heart the most. Time and place, brothers. I know you have a lot of emotion, but you keep giving them ammunition to radicalize Muslims against us. Look what they do. Look at the Shia. Look at them cut their heads. Look at them curse our companions. Look, look. So then the tyrants can get away. Divide and conquer. That's what they do. But we are wiser. We are wiser and we have great leaders. And even though in the last 2 years we lost a lot of tremendous amount of great leadership in the Shia world, know that we continue to stand on the side. وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله الطاهرين والحمد لله رب العالمين.